Well, for the time being, Spider-Man is officially out of the MCU and back over at Sony's Spider-Verse. How's it going, everybody? It's Warren, and if you haven't heard the news, yesterday Sony unfortunately came out with a public statement and said for the moment the door is closed on any type of deal with Disney for Spider-Man, officially claiming that Spider-Man will no longer be a part of the MCU. This is obviously very upsetting news, and we've heard many people from Marvel's reactions to this over the past few weeks while this Disney and Sony deal was going on, including reactions from Tom Holland himself and Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios. But throughout this whole thing, a lot of people were wondering, well, what do the Russo brothers think about this whole thing? After all, the Russo brothers were the ones who cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man for Civil War. It was the Russo brothers, Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal. They're the ones who specifically chose Tom Holland to play an MCU Spider-Man. So what is their reaction to no more Spider-Man in the MCU? Well, luckily for us, they have actually spoken up about it, and we're going to talk about what they said in this video. Reminder, if you'd like a chance to win an Xbox One or a PS4, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and comment with your favorite superhero or villain to enter my giveaway. So at the Venice Film Festival, in an interview with the Daily Beast, the Russo brothers were asked how they felt about Tom Holland's Spider-Man not being a part of the MCU anymore. Well, of course, the Russo brothers were sad to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man leave the MCU, and they talked about how hard it was in the beginning for Kevin Feige to even get Sony on board with the partnership. Joe Russo commented, "Kevin Feige went through a lot. There were a lot of ups and downs, and he kept walking into our office and we'd go, 'Look, we've got to do it with Sony.' And he'd go, 'Okay, I'll figure it out,' and walk back into his. He was looking for the way out. He wanted to open that door and have us go, 'We figured it out. We don't need Spider-Man because it's a lot of work to get two major corporations to play nice with each other. And the fact that it happened at all, we should all be dancing and celebrating that we got that little bit of time.'" Then his brother and co-director Anthony Russo added, "I think that's why Joe and I are not so devastated or surprised that there's been a falling out, because it was so hard to make it happen in the first place." So obviously the Russo brothers are upset to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man leave the MCU, especially since they're the one who cast him, but at the same time they're not surprised. They watched Kevin Feige from the very beginning try to negotiate something with Sony, and apparently Sony was pretty reluctant to do it in the first place. It sounds like they were being quite difficult. Now, it's amazing that they did actually come to a deal, because Sony did not have to let Marvel and Disney use Spider-Man in the MCU. But ultimately they did. Spider-Man made his debut in the MCU, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man became the most popular Spider-Man. But of course, Sony still owns all the rights to Spider-Man, and they did not have to let him appear in the MCU, and they don't have to let him appear in the MCU in the future. So although we should all be grateful that Sony ultimately let Spider-Man appear in the MCU films, it sounds like they've been pretty difficult from the beginning, which is probably why Sony and Disney could not come to a deal to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. So that's it for how the Russo brothers reacted to hearing the news that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU. Let me know what you think about what they said about Sony being very difficult from the very beginning. And do you think that there is any hope at all for Spider-Man to come back to the MCU in the future? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and don't forget to comment with your favorite superhero or villain, like this video, and subscribe to my channel so you can enter my giveaway and stay up to date on everything relating to the MCU. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.